Hey there, this is Josh Dippold, website's integratingpresence.com. Welcome to everyone that's here already. And in the description, in the chat, I'll put the description for the event for those who have yet to ever join an Open Wisdom Wednesday. And for the audio, I'll just read this. And welcome to those on Wisdom app too. This is Irregular Wisdom Office Hours. I ask unplanned, general, and specific questions for your wisdom, and you ask me. In the meantime, we share openly, likely from whatever's currently happening, to get at our wisdom. So today, well, first off, what are you guys up to this week? What kind of wisdom encounters have you had? Anything wisdom related, questions, things you want to share, generally and specifically. I thought if nobody had anything to talk about, we'll talk about Refuge. But before I do that, I wanted to just give a couple housekeeping things here. I'm back in Denmark. I spent probably 2 months at monasteries in the UK over the last roughly 3 months, and did an online retreat with Insight Meditation Society, Gradual Path to Awakening, or The Path to Awakening with Joseph Goldstein. Wondering if I should do a separate event talking about all these things, but I don't want to eat into our time there. The only other kind of announcement I have is my course, Progressive Breath Awareness Booster. I've just had professionally mastered, so the audio quality is even better. You can check that out under the course tab. But now on to Refuge. So this has come up a few times in recent memory, and yeah, so what do we usually think of when we think refuge? On the external, it is, this place of safety. So just a little contrast, of course, if there's not much going on in the external, there's not much external refuge needed. We can just be wherever we need to be, right? But if there's rain or cold, well, then we might need to take appropriate refuge. But if there's really something going on, perhaps like a hurricane or a really big storm, then maybe our everyday regular shelter, refuge isn't going to cut it. We need something more robust, more durable. And this goes the same parallel on the internal. If we have really challenging times going on, we're going to need something more profound, more meaningful to take refuge in than the normal things we take refuge in. So what does everybody take refuge in now that they would like to share? And then what would they like to potentially take refuge in? Maybe there's a sweet spot too, where it doesn't need to be such an extreme refuge or such a refuge that we tend to blow off immediately. I mean, the worldly refuges are things like shopping, sex, distraction, TV, entertainment, social media, these type of things. Josky says hello. Hey Josky, it's been a while. So I know Tara Brach, she's a big popular mindfulness teacher. She has a book called True Refuge. I haven't read it, but I heard some talks years ago about, pretty sure about her taking refuge, but I can't speak for her, say anything, but I would recommend that as a resource for anyone interested in refuge. I know for me, these are the traditional Buddhist refuges are Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha. The way I look at those, though, mostly are the internal aspects, or these qualities that they have that are different than, or not maybe talked about as much in traditional circles. So Buddha is just the title that means awake. Okay, so with that, this awake awareness, taking refuge in the fact that we're aware. So in any given moment, there's a knowing in what's being known. Experience can basically be simplified down to this phenomena of knowing and what's being known. And usually we're focused on what's being known, the object. Like this is an insight timer event. There's a chat box. There's a voice, a talking head. There's mind objects about wisdom, maybe heart qualities that spark when we think about wisdom. There's a knowing of all this, though. That which knows. Basically, if you're in a movie theater and you're engrossed in what's going on the screen, but you can stand up at any time, maybe it might draw attention to you, but you can stand up, turn around, and look where the movie's being projected from behind. And that's like the light that projects. So we can know what's knowing. We can notice the noticing. We can be aware of the awareness, right, to a certain degree. And for me, that's a type of refuge, an internal refuge, this alignment with truth and the way things are, with this, even if we're not there yet, then this kind of desire to align with actuality, truth and reality, gives a sense of comfort, because awareness can neither be purified nor can it be defiled. It just knows. It just is. It just notices. It's just aware. So that's the refuge I take, that was called Buddha. Ilana, is that how we say with names? Yeah, those types of refuge are temporary. This is a very good point. Nothing lasts forever, right? And these refuges that we take, they're not going to be the same degree of protection or refuge that they are every moment. Everything changes. Everything's subject to change. Nothing lasts forever. And eventually, we can let go of these things too, perhaps. Emery says, I take refuge in authenticity when the world speaks against my lived experience. Beautiful. Yes. This authenticity, we're not really dependent on what other people think or say about us, right? Or in the world, or what the world says. True to our own selves, true to our own hearts, true to our own experience. And the more skillful and wise and loving those can be, I feel the better, right? There's something powerful and real about authenticity, in a sense of ease eventually when we get comfortable with just being authentic. Okay, so the second refuge, so we've got authenticity as a refuge. It's beautiful. So any other refuge that people are taking in, either negative, positive, aspirational, chime in on the chat room or in wisdom. The second one is Dhamma, and we talked a little bit about this just a little bit ago. And the way I like to look at this is basically the truth of the way things are, reality. In Buddhism, it's the teachings of the Buddha, or also that. Not necessarily what we want things to be, but the way they actually are, and knowing that. So taking truth in things that are more real, more authentic, this plays into the authenticity card. So, it doesn't necessarily mean when things are real rough, getting bummed out. Oh, it's this way. This sucks so bad. But there is a kind of truth that, okay, it's like this right now. It's not going to be like this forever, but this is how it is. And instead of kidding myself and saying, it's not like that, pretend it's otherwise, just want it to go away. This alignment with the truth of the way things are. We don't have to get bogged down in how bad it is or how challenging it is, but not kidding ourselves, not lying to ourselves and saying otherwise. Now, there's also an aspiration we can set. Yes, it's like this now. However, what's the most skillful way to be with this now and going forward? What would I like to be with, or how would I like to be with this in the future if it pops up? What is for my long-term welfare and happiness, and the long-term welfare and happiness of others when something like this happens again? What are the action steps and planning and training I can take to make this a more skillful, wise, and loving way of relating with whatever's going on or whatever challenge it is. And then it's, if there's any action that needs to be taken around it. Because those are the things we do have seeming some choice in, what we pay attention to and how we pay attention to it, as well as how we view it, any given situation, and how we respond to it. Okay, so and then the next refuge would be Sangha. That's the traditional Buddhist one, but I look at this one more as the heart qualities, right? So what's going on in the heart, the way we relate to things. So picking up on the last one, how is this being held in my experience, how can I hold this in an appropriate way that's helpful for me to address it in any given situation? What is the relationship to it? What is the felt heart sense behind it? This also goes into, obviously, community, friends, our relationships with other people, our environment, our thoughts, our feelings, emotion, relation to just about anything. And are we associating with wise beings? Are we associating with fools? I did a talk on this called Not Associating with Fools. And as you can see, the wind's picking up here. So when we take refuge in relationship, how are those relationships? Are we staying in relationships we shouldn't be in? Are we putting off fostering our current relationships? Looking for healthier relationships? Do we have a trust that we will attract the right people? Are there some choices we need to make that we've been putting off that will help us along these lines? And how can we be okay with it until we're ready to make those choices? So when it comes to other people, what are some helpful advices, some helpful words of wisdom people have, or what have they learned in relationship? So if I may be a little traditional here, no, actually, let's put that, rewind. What have people found helpful in relationships? What challenges do people see around themselves and others in relationship? What's valuable to appreciate and admire in relationships? Maybe I'm flooding the questions a little bit too much here. For me, it's the starting point, obviously, is lack of ill will, goodwill. Even if someone's really challenged by what they're going through, what's underneath of it? Is there a deep sense of care and wanting to belong and goodwill? Or is there just kind of, this person probably isn't going to have my best interest in mind, or many other people? And we all know the feeling of being around a wise mentor, a loving friend, a helpful partner. All these things can give a sense of refuge when things get challenging. Also, can we be someone else's refuge? Do we have the capacity and willingness to do so? And do we know when to be that refuge and when not? Well, we're ready on the 15-minute mark. I appreciate you all for joining, and I'm going to wrap this up unless anyone has any other questions or would like to chime in. But maybe I'll get a chance to do some more of these coming up. I've got a bunch of interviews coming up for podcasts, so stay tuned for those. Might be launching some projects down the road. They're still in development. I wish you all the greatest, most skillful, wise refuges, ones that are loving, connecting, full of truth, benefit, and much awareness and heart-centeredness. Bye, you all.